Today on the LA Food Podcast, the LA Food equivalent of a new Taylor Swift album dropped this week, dear listener. I'm talking, of course, about the LA Times annual list of the 101 best restaurants in Los Angeles. And get this, Acquired Taste got access to the list before anyone else. You've probably already heard Bill Esparza's interview with Bill Addison on this week's Taqueando, which dropped Wednesday. Today you're going to hear my conversation with both Bill and Jenn Harris. I sat down with a dynamic duo at Mercado La Paloma last Friday for a deep dive on their process, their reasoning behind an unprecedented choice for the number one spot, and a full-on demystification of what goes into their decisions and which picks caused them the most consternation in 2025. In part 2, Father Saul joins me to analyze the list in our trademark Frankly Psychotic fashion. We break down the rising stars, the wilting flowers, the well-oiled machines, and the restaurants that seem to yo-yo up and down the list year after year. We talk omissions, new additions, and which restaurants most intrigue us for a visit in 2026. Quick heads up, for whatever reason, my audio cuts out a little bit for about 7 minutes of the conversation with Bill and Jenn. It happens approximately 20 minutes in, and you might need to listen extra hard to hear me. But the good news is, you can still hear Bill and Jenn loud and clear, and let's face it, what they have to say is what really matters. A reminder that the LA Food Podcast is part of the Acquired Taste Media Network. As I said, be sure to listen to Bill Esparza's conversation with Bill Addison on Taqueando. That's streaming everywhere, and please consider leaving both Bill's show and our show a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, I'm your host Luca, and without further ado, let's chow down. Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under 2 conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day. I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine, with the best omega 6-3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts. All right, I'm having a bit of a pinch myself moment because after years of us dissecting the 101 on this podcast in a silo, wondering what the hell is Bill thinking, what the hell is Jenn thinking, I am sat at a table at Mercado La Paloma with none other than Bill Addison and Jenn Harris, about to dissect all of the 101, get into their thoughts, their feelings. Bill, Jenn, how you guys doing today?
Great.
It's the end of the run, the lead up to the 101. We are good. We are ready for the world to see it.
Ready for the dissecting to begin.
Yes.
Let me address the elephant in the room, since this is coming out after the event. Bill, your face is on camera. People are seeing you for the first time. You want to say anything to the people seeing you for the first time?
Talk to the people, Bill.
I know.
Say something.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's something that I have been thinking about for over a year, shedding my anonymity. I almost did it last year at the 101 reveal. It's been a year where many other critics that I respect, including some who used to hide their face and now show their face, are also showing their face. So it seems like the right time, and also to the very point we're in, when I tried all these years to keep a low profile, I at least had podcasts as a sanctuary, and now podcasts and videos as well. So it's just time.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm a secret in plenty of restaurants in Los Angeles. So, like many critics before me, you just got to know when to make it equitable for everyone to know what I look like.
Well, welcome to the non-anonymous world. It's the water feels great out here. It's not so bad.
Does it? I don't know. I've been hiding a long time.
Well, my icebreaker question for you is this, even though we've already broken the ice, so to speak. How do you guys plan on decompressing after what I imagine is gotta be one of the most intense parts of your work here? Maybe Jen, we can start with you.
I don't know if we ever really decompress. I feel like the schedule is constant. So, we finish this project and then it's like on to like 5 other ones, especially in the middle of the holidays. So I haven't decompressed. I would love to just like sit at home and eat some fried rice that I made with leftovers. I feel like that's my idea of like decompressing and have some hot tea. But no, it's just like today, this is one of, I don't know how many meals you have, but I have more than 3. So.
Oh my God, it's a tough life.
It's not a tough
We
life.
love it. I'm not complaining.
But yes, no one is ever allowed to complain about eating for a living. That's the golden rule.
How do you decompress, Bill?
I often take a good week around Thanksgiving to really disappear from the world. And I didn't really get the chance to do that this year, so I will be disappearing around Christmas time. And that's it. I think we both, to eat a little less right after all that crazy constant eating, but that's not always feasible either. So I think the answer is like, we're grateful to have jobs in journalism, and we keep on soldiering as needed.
Very, very brave of you. Now look, let's dive into the 101, but before we get into the actual, restaurants, I haven't actually read this yet because the piece hasn't come out, but before every list, there's always sort of that preamble that spells out the theme of the year. For people who haven't read it, can you give us a little bit of a summary as to what that theme is this year?
It's been a hard year for Los Angeles, and it's a living document, the 101, which is why it feels like such a privilege to do it every year. And it's impossible not to incorporate how we feel as Angelinos into making this list, with the fires and with the raids and the ways that it impacts how people show up for restaurants and the constant closings. So we're reckoning with that as well. And yet, I think one of the themes that emerged for Jen and I this year was that every restaurant needs to get by, right? Some take the choice to get by just doubling down on what's safe and what's known. And making food that just is as plainly appealing and as comforting as possible. But we also noticed chefs who really channeled whatever they were feeling or however they feel as Angelinos and leaned in harder to the creativity to do something that felt kind of outside the box, to express themselves in ever more personal ways. And we were really excited to be able to share in those experiences and to really see too how customers responded to that. Those restaurants weren't empty. It wasn't like they were trying to be experimental in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So the list this year is framed in the catastrophes of the year and also the ways that restaurants and chefs responded with creativity that felt like an act of resistance.
Yeah, very well said.
And we ended up feeling hopeful. Like, we
Yes.
after reporting and writing this list, it was such a difficult year, but how miraculous that we really did feel hopeful at the end of everything. So.
And grateful.
And grateful, very grateful, yes.
It's really cool. It feels like, my wife and I do this thing every year where we reflect back on the year, and even when you feel like it's been a shit year, you just make a list of everything you've done, and it'll surprise you. Like, how much, even if you feel like you've done absolutely nothing that year, you end up walking away feeling like, holy shit, it's actually been a good year.
Yeah.
I sense it's probably a similar experience where you're like, oh, there's been a ton of catastrophe this year, but you look back at all the amazing things that have happened in the Los Angeles food scene, and yeah, that gratitude, kind of inescapable, right?
Yeah. And of course, the ways that the restaurant industry always responds to catastrophe by feeding people, by taking care of one another,
They're always the first to show up.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah, even if they're hit the hardest.
Without fail. Now, let's not bury the lead here. We are seated in what is the #1 restaurant, or, collection of restaurants on the 101, and that is Mercado La Paloma. Now, it seems like a perfect sequitur from what you just said, Bill, but tell me about what moved you to make this collection of restaurants, which is not, a lot of them have been here for a very long time, shift that to #1 in the year of our Lord 2025.
So Mercado La Paloma is #1. We are always in constant communication during the months leading up to and making the 101. Cato, the restaurant that's been #1 for the past 2 years, is arguably better than ever.
It really is. It keeps getting better.
It's incredible. And it felt like the right year to acknowledge an institution that not only illustrates excellence in our community, but is also a part of the community in unusually important ways. That the Mercado La Paloma is part of an organization involved in local housing, in local healthcare, in historic Central South LA.
Villa Esperanza is the name of the organization.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Gilberto's family, Gilberto from Holbox, his family was one of the original vendors here.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. And with Chichen Itza, that they've been here for it's 25
25 years.
It's the 25th anniversary this year.
In February. It was also when we realized that it's pretty special that this place has been incubating talent for a quarter century.
That's crazy.
It feels like such an integral part of Los Angeles. I feel like it embodies a spirit of community that, as Angelinos, I feel like we were really yearning for this year, especially with everything that happened. And alone, and it's not just like Holbox, Comal, Chichen Itza, it's all the vendors too that contribute to that, to this being such a special place. I remember I've been coming here since it opened. I've been coming to Chichen Itza since it opened, since before there was a Holbox and before the lines. And it's always felt special and accessible and fun and delicious. The food here is just ridiculous.
It's unbeatable. I used to live across the street, and I used to come in the days of Mochica.
Yes.
That was and I remember, I told this story before, but I literally one time came over because I had the quinoa risotto dish over there. And I was like, this is so damn good, I want to make it at home because I'm a broke college student and I'm going to go broke if I just keep eating this at the restaurant every day. I didn't know where to find quinoa at the time because it was late 2009s, was 2000s, wasn't everywhere yet. So I hopped on over and asked Chef Ricardo if I could buy a bag of quinoa off of him. He was like, yeah, sure, why not? So it just, that's the kind of community place it feels like, right? It's inspirational that way. Now, it's been the restaurants within it have been on the list before. Like last year, both Holbox and Comal were on the list. Why this year did you decide to, instead of making Holbox #1 or Comal #2 or whatever, to look at it as one entity?
I think because of the unifying nature of this place, in a year that we use more sense of unity.
Yeah.
And maybe have been feeling more of a sense of unity. This just felt like the right call. Obviously, Holbox and Comal get lots of very deserved attention on their own, and this list is going to keep going, and they'll likely have a place on it for years to come. But this felt like the right year to step back and be like, yeah, this place. Come honor this place. Come see this place. It's so much more than its parts.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I feel like as a whole, we wanted to recognize that as a whole, especially since, yes, each of these vendors in here is so great on its own, but the fact that you can have them all together here, and it's something about them being here and the sense of place that you get when you're eating here is what we really wanted to recognize.
Yeah. That makes sense. So I'm going to ask a question which is kind of topical because just this week, Michael Nagrant, former critic for the Chicago Sun-Times, published a Substack on what's wrong with the James Beard Awards. And in it, we talked about this on the podcast last week, but one of the critiques he made of the James Beard Awards is that they've done too much to recognize essentially like things other than food. He took issue with the foundation doing too much to move the criteria away from just food and into the extra things like, for example, what a restaurant does for the community. All that to say, there are people out there who are probably going to look at your reasoning for making, or part of your reasoning for making Mercato La Paloma #1 and say, well, it's not really the best restaurant then, is it? What do you say to those people?
I would say this list is about excellence and representation of what makes Los Angeles great. Yeah. And this is the perfect nexus.
Yes.
If you, in your heart of hearts, don't like this answer, just come eat at Hobosch.
Yeah.
And
if you have a meal here, I do not think you'll disagree with us.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to a restaurant than the food on the table.
Yeah.
There's so much more to the experience that I think it's important you look at a restaurant as a whole. I mean, of course the food has to be good, but I don't judge purely on what's on the table.
For sure.
But it is an evolving question in food media about the balance of abject excellence, whatever that is. Everything is subjective, so I don't really believe in that. But, broad excellence and what we're talking about when we want to uplift places as well. And I would say to that, Jen and I eat at 300 to 400 places starting in August to make this list.
Wild.
And so, right, and before,
Yeah.
But particularly when we're running hard and kind of on the same page about kind of what our assignments are. So I say that because this does represent what we believe to be excellent, and the power of doing this for the Los Angeles Times is that we are given the budget to make these kinds of decisions. Yeah. So it's here for you to disagree with. I think the point is just we put in the work.
Yeah.
And so we feel really good about what we've done because, if something has disappeared from this list and you're horrified, it's probably because we didn't have the same experience that we had in previous.
Yeah. Oh. Well, we're going to dig into that a little bit more in just a moment, but I'd love to understand the process a little bit more because we've always been curious about that. Like, is it, I understand, for example, when we talked about the California 101 bill, you were saying it is a little bit of art and science. How much of this is art? How much of it is science? And also, how has it changed from the days when you were doing it solo versus since Jen has joined?
I brought the chaos. Look at how I'm eating this taco. I mean, poor thing has to deal with me now.
Jen's the bad cop, so if there's anything you're really upset about on this list, it's Jen's fault. Well, because I was wandering the state off and on for a year and a half to make the California 101 list, it's insane enough to do this by myself when I haven't had an enormous project like this. So, I'm just glad that Jen agreed to join me in it for these last 2 times. And it's nice to have a partner to bounce ideas off of and to ask each other what we're missing and to push each other. If there were instances where she liked a restaurant, I went, I didn't feel it as hard, vice versa. And so the list is very much a mutual effort, a joint effort.
Do you guys have veto power over one another?
No. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if
I
we're
never-
thinking about it right.
I
Like
never
in that.
felt like I needed to like be like no or veto
Right,
something.
or right, yes.
I feel like we're both
You're wrong.
Yeah, we're both very good about trying to understand where the other person is coming from and try and like if like say he loved something that I didn't love as much.
Yeah.
I really tried to understand where he was coming from with it. Yeah. So no, I was never like
And
no.
sometimes he'd be like, order these 4 dishes.
Yes.
And you'll see what I'm talking about. You know?
And that always I feel like it always we're like, okay, yes. Yeah.
What about carryover from year to year, right? How much do you think of this as a singular list on any given year versus like a continuation of something that's existed for over a decade now?
When we start the project, we meet for lunch, usually somewhere that's on the list.
Where'd you go this year?
Maymalai.
Nice.
And I literally bring a print copy from last year with a red marker and a black marker, and we start from the back and we just start flipping through.
Interesting.
And, you know, some of them are obvious. You're crossing off the restaurants that have closed, but also sometimes even within the 8 months between kind of last times or the year between last year's start and this year's start, we're pretty aligned that certain things are dropping off the list. Jen called it the Red Wedding the other day, and
Call it the Red Wedding. It just feels so awful. I feel, not awful. I mean, but it feels terrible to take anything off ever. So that's why I called it that.
You mean like when you take out the red marker and
Yes, and then start crossing off things because based on meals we've recently had there or whatever that we're thinking, this is probably not going to make it this year. That feels bad.
Yeah.
To use the red marker. Yeah.
I imagine it would feel horrible.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Okay, so if by my calculations, my nerdy calculations, I promise it's going to be the nerdiest interview you guys ever do.
great.
On a year-to-year basis, about 60% of the restaurants return. By my calculations, last year I think it was 30 or so, the new ones. This year, by my count, there were about high 30s or 40 or so.
A little lower. I think it's 33.
New.
Yeah, 33
We counted
new.
33 is new.
Yeah, and sometimes we include in the new category like places that have been on before, dropped off, came back.
Oh yeah.
So we're saying new for this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did notice there's a lot more change that seems to happen in the bottom 75 to 80 than in the top 25.
Yeah.
So which would stand to reason, but what makes a restaurant break into that top tier?
Because we do have some newer ones that did break into that top tier. And it wasn't a hard decision. I feel like these are meals where we ate there and immediately I was like, oh, this place is incredible. Like if you want to...
Yeah, and for the places that keep coming back, I think it returns to what we were talking about, this an internal sense of momentum at the restaurant, that it's not stagnant, that it feels like it keeps itself engaged, and thus keeps the diner engaged. You know what I mean? Whatever that means, whether that means like you're changing the beverage program, or you have a new pastry chef, or you're switching up notions of the cuisine you're cooking, whatever that is. And it doesn't mean that we're looking for, a restaurant. There's that sense of like consistency and momentum at once. That's not an oxymoron when you're experiencing it. And it's fun to look back. Like can sometimes feel when you're a close observer, or even when you're in the thick of it, that the top doesn't move that much. But look back at 2019 and see how this restaurant list looks as compared.
So from 2013 to now, only a few restaurants have been, I think, on every list or close to every list.
Ooh, okay.
By my count, it's Province, Naka, Malise, and Rustic Candy.
Wow, just
only
those
ones?
restaurants?
So just those, from 2013, just those.
Wow.
That have never fallen off, that are still on it. What is it about places like that stands the test of time?
That's interesting. I didn't know it was only those 4.
I mean, not to sound like a broken record that no one even listens to anymore, since No one listens to records. Gen X speak. But Providence is such a great example of what we're talking about, right? The hospitality is on a fine dining level, absolutely some of the best on the West Coast.
Yes.
And that feels remarkably consistent.
Yeah.
You go and you feel taken care of. You feel like somebody is thinking ahead, to what you might want next in your meal. It's really special. And Michael Cimarusti and his kitchen team are always trying to push things further. So the meal may still be seafood oriented and with a focus on sustainable seafood, but the meal that you had at Providence in 2013 is not the meal you're having at Providence in 2025.
It is consistently surprising and delightful.
And fun for us to go back there together.
Yes.
We eat independently and then trade notes a lot, but there are a handful of restaurants, to be frank about it, like particularly the very expensive ones where it's just good for us to split the meal. And so it's very rewarding specifically to return to Providence every year and for us to be like, oh, this is kind of the direction they're thinking this year. Rustic Canyon also changing constantly.
Yes.
So many chefs have passed through there, and not in a bad way, in a pretty organic way, and to kind of reach something that also feels very of the moment, too.
Let's talk geography a little bit. I feel like in the past, people would be a little surprised when there'd be like an Orange County place on there, or even like if it was really far San Gabriel Valley or something. Now it feels like 626, Long Beach, OC. They're one of us, They're very much one of us. Now, talk to me, how much is that intentionally shifting the gravity of the list versus that's just where the good shit's happening these days?
I think it's kind of both. I think we're extra mindful of geography and of where to find things. But also, there's so many fantastic restaurants in Long Beach and Orange County that it's hard for us to narrow them. It's hard to narrow them down.
And I think particularly when it comes to Orange County, which is close and is its own culture, I lean when making decisions about the 101 specifically to think about what Orange County has that's so good or so specific that it doesn't quite translate the same way in Los Angeles proper. So that in other words, it's worth going down to Orange County to try these restaurants. The Al Baraka, a Palestinian restaurant in Anaheim, this little Arabia community, tastes like no other restaurant cooking from that region of the world in the LA proper area. So it just feels really good to shout them out. Same always with the absolute riches of Little Saigon. It's fun every year to kind of narrow down like, where should we send people this year that maybe they haven't been?
This year it's somewhere you can get Labubus.
That's right. Hilarious.
Do you have a Labubu bill?
No, I do not.
No, I don't. I should.
Maybe we should have brought. Oh, okay. Yeah, but I want it. I want it from
this restaurant.
From this restaurant.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna get to some specifics in terms of restaurant fluctuations.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Brace yourselves, okay?
All right.
Sure.
One thing that stood out to me is Damian jumping 44 spots from last year.
No, I'm kidding.
That to me strikes me as a huge critical reevaluation. What happened at Damian?
You wrote that one, so I'm giving
did.
it to you.
I just had a phenomenal meal there.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you go somewhere, and that's such a great restaurant to begin with, but sometimes you go somewhere and they just really knock it out of the park with not just being consistent, and it felt so timely too. That one dish that I had, it felt very relevant. The one dish I had, it was
Carrot.
Yeah. Oh, It was the carrot aguachile.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Thinking about it now, I'm like salivating. It's just, and I know what I like to get there, but this time I actually ordered I got what I usually get, and I ordered some newer things, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I know, it's such a game to kind of parse the thinking, but I will say in earnestness that we make a point of not looking at last year's rankings before we just kind of organically, the process I'll share is literally we independently brainstorm our top 15.
Okay.
And then we share it.
To each other.
Like we say 1, 2, 3, and then drop it into a chat online.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we do.
And both times that we've done this, they have been remarkably close.
Okay.
And when we go, oh, okay, that, okay, we're like, oh, all right, thinking hard about like what number one might be, and that, and then for the rest of the restaurants, we go through and we bracket them in by groups of 10.
Okay.
So is this restaurant in the ranks somewhere in the 30s to 40s, 80s to 90s?
Yeah.
Where does it fit?
Yeah.
And so we do that independently too, and then we kind of come together and we discuss it.
And do you also like drop those simultaneously in the chat?
Yes.
The
Yes.
20. Okay.
Everything is. Yeah. We have no
Yeah.
idea what the other one is thinking.
That's
but they're
amazing.
always remarkably similar.
So
Yeah.
this year when you did the exchange, the famous exchange, did you both have the same number one?
We did. We
did though.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did, but it was last year's number one, and we wanted to think hard about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so that's where that led.
That's cool. It's an iteration process that I like that you both had the same idea and you still iterated to the point where you made a different decision. That's pretty
because we both put it there. It's so deserving. Let me just say, if you have a special occasion, Cato is incredible, and there are many different ways to experience it. You can just sit in the bar and have drinks. You can have a shortened menu at the bar. The main tasting menu is miraculous and reflects Chef John Yao's Taiwanese upbringing in the San Gabriel Valley. But we both knew it felt right to honor it high on the list, but we both felt we gotta keep thinking about this too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all the things, right? It's a balance. We want to give people something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because I feel like sometimes when you just get the same answer over and over again, it helps to kind of like really question the fundamentals. It's like the first principles of it, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like that's what you guys did. So applause for the courage in that sense. Now, how about Restaurant Key? Because that is, I think, one of the restaurants that is new this year, and for the as a first timer got into the top 10. What stood out about Key?
Purely in terms of kind of thinking about overall excellence, Restaurant Key is the best restaurant to open in Los Angeles this year. To me, it is not a particularly accessible restaurant, unfortunately. It's 10 seats, a modern Korean tasting menu in the bottom of the Little Tokyo skyscraper from the 70s, in the warren of basement restaurants that also houses Sushi Kanayoshi, also on the list, and Bar Sawa down there. But man, Ki Kim is bringing it. It's such great expression, not only like an expression of him thinking about his background, but thinking about the notions of modern Korean cuisine, which is really one of the countrywide stories in America of a cuisine that's really in an ascendant moment right now. And also just so satisfying to see how far he grew from Kin in Koreatown, which I waited a year to review, which I sometimes do when I feel like a restaurant is really like rippling with potential but still finding itself, instead of just kind of locking in this review that sort of lives online forever, that reflects more of an incubation than the destination achieved.
Yeah.
And it closed not long after that review, and I was sad for the loss. And it's amazing to see that it's like 3 times better. It's also 3 times more expensive, but it's 3 times better. So there you go. So it felt exciting to kind of catapult that one into the top 10.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I have not. It's really high. For those types of dinners, my co-host and I, we bet on sports so that if we're going to experience pain, only one of us experiences pain, financially speaking. So we're waiting for a big enough sports event to do that one.
Fair.
Well, World Cup. Coming up.
World Cup. The draw happened today.
I know. I think I sent you an all caps text after I ate at Keith.
Do you do all caps text a lot, Jen, or was that special occasion?
No, I just was. No, I don't.
The worst is the silence. When I don't hear anything, then I'm like,
That's the worst too. It's like one of us tells the other one to go to something we're feeling really good about, and then I know he eats there, or he knows that I eat somewhere, and then it's like silence.
I'm mortified.
And then I'm just sitting there like sweating, like I'm like, is he gonna? I'm like, do I text? Or he's like, you hated it, huh? And I was like, no, I just forgot, or whatever.
Oh my
God! Really funny.
But you actually hated it, didn't you?
No.
There were a couple. Where it was like, okay.
There were a couple both
we'll
ways.
leave this one.
They were like, all right, well, this is fine.
Which I think is a great sort of proof point to the people out there, even at the highest level of this game. It's still subjective.
Of course.
One person's loves could be somebody else's hates, and you kind of meet in the middle sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another one, to that point, Stir Crazy. It jumped 22 spots. We've talked about Stir Crazy on this podcast in the context of it very much being on trend as a type of restaurant that's been opening a lot. At least, okay, maybe we're painting with extremely broad brushstrokes here.
Okay.
But in the ilk of the Sam's places, in the ilk of not quite a baby bistro, but you could kind of see the evolutionary thread there in some ways. For people who, like me, have painted with that broad brush and maybe can't really see what distinguishes Stir Crazy from other wine bar with good food, what distinguishes Stir Crazy?
Wow, I don't think of it as like a wine bar with good food. I don't think of it as in the same vein as any of those places you mentioned.
Wow.
Yeah.
I agree.
I never thought of it like that. Yes, their wine list is incredible. It's so fun. Obviously, you can get a fantastic bottle of wine, but it's so fun to see whatever they're pouring by the glass and just order, don't drive and do this, but order 3 separate glasses instead of committing to a bottle of wine if you want to go that way. It's fun. But also the food, like that leek toast, I feel like they're setting a certain trend versus them being part of an overall trend, I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And the joy, I just feel like maybe in this tough year, the joy of a tiny restaurant that knows itself so well that it does such a great job of sharing its intentions, of achieving its intentions in its
personality.
So those, you can just, 3 or 4 of you could show up and you could just order the whole menu and not think too hard about it.
Yeah.
Jen is a glass person. I probably lean more bottle. I'm always curious
Those
to see.
are 2 types of people, to be fair.
No, you know what? Yes. I normally lean bottle too, but they're specifically,
they do have
lean
a cool
more glass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Mackenzie is thinking so hard about that program, and it shows.
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
Yeah. Whereas Baby Bistro is, fantastic and polarizing, and polarizing even for people who are who don't think it's polarizing. You know what I mean? For people who are this is hands down the most exciting new restaurant and the most representative of Los Angeles, and people who are I don't get it. Food's weird. I'm not feeling it. And yet there's no denying that wine program is also super great as well.
Yeah.
Andy,
Totally.
of course. Yeah.
Last one in the specifics category, Vespertine. It's risen 17 spots. It's been all over the list, 101 one year, 50 one year. It's up 17 spots this year, so it's hovering in the 30s. What about this restaurant? What stuck out in 2025 about Vespertine's evolution? Because I gotta say, the conversation around it, from the streets, it's been around for a while. It hasn't been able to cross that barrier from 2 Michelin to 3 Michelin, and some people associate that with maybe its star being on the wane, not the rise.
I want to say that we never think about Michelin at all. We're doing our own work. We are not really comparing ourselves to others. probably my least favorite reader email is the one where they're like, but this has 2 Michelin stars, like, how could you not? Or this has a Michelin star, how could you ignore it? Because it's like, that tells me that you have placed your faith in an institution that kind of sweeps in and, speaking of anonymity, like, prides itself on its sort of invisibility, which can cut both ways, right? You don't know who's writing the blurb, who's eating that meal from meal to meal. Even if I wasn't showing my face, I have a byline, I have a public opinion. You can point a finger and disagree with me, but there is also, in the age of AI, I think, something about people's mentalities that they're like, okay, invisible institution that tells us this is great, like, it's kind of the direction the world is moving in, so we accept that.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're about. So, to answer your question about Vespertine, and Jen, I would love to hear you as that as well. I think sometimes, and again, we weren't really looking at how we ranked Vespertine last year, I think that we were thinking almost along the same lines as you are, Luca, where like, yeah, it's not being talked about as much. Like, why? Because for what it is, it's excellent. And there's hardly anyone pulling off that kind of modernist craziness these days in a way that is also delicious. I think, for me, I'll stop talking about this, but I feel like, for me, the irony of Vespertine is that I like it so much more in its 2.0 iteration than I did before the pandemic, when it was so self-serious and not like recognizably delicious. It could be interesting. I didn't want to pay hundreds of dollars for a meal that was unrecognizable and interesting, and now I'm much more invested in sort of like, okay, I see these ingredients have a provenance. I see that you have a narrative behind it, even if you spin that narrative in directions that no one else does or that I could never imagine on my own. So I think it deserves its place.
I too like it more, love it more each time I go, because it isn't as serious. It's almost like playful now with some of the dishes, and I guess I appreciate the narrative more. I appreciate that you get that backstory behind, and also some of his cooking now just seems way more personal than it used to be. I don't know. I just appreciate what he's trying to do every time, because it's like not a restaurant for me. It's like he basically creates this world that you kind of walk into, and you have to. It's a restaurant where you have as good of a time as you intend to have, if that makes sense. Like, you have to give over control to Jordan and his team and just kind of embrace what they're trying to create for you to have the best experience there. And again, the food is really delicious. But I feel like I had a newfound appreciation for it every time I go.
I couldn't agree more. And honestly, like, in the if Jordan Kahn's life was a movie, it's perfect. Because, like, he was like doing this thing with Red Medicine, like soulful, like, but still modernist and weird and nothing like we've had in Los Angeles. Then he gets too serious, He's like, how do I take this to the next level? And he goes down a route that maybe he wasn't listening to his heart, right? Listening to his head. But then the pandemic happens, he sees the light, he comes back. It's a true triumph, Somebody should write this movie.
I feel like I am watching a movie trailer.
It's good.
And this is the final scene. He's number 30-something on the 101, and that's a win. So that's it. That's it for specific questions. That's really, thanks for diving into those. Those are always the things that when I'm looking at the list, I was like, I wonder what they're thinking. And I got to ask you. Now, let's talk about the Red Wedding a little bit. When a restaurant drops off a list, right? Not just drops off, but when you're making the list in general, how much are you thinking about the impact it's going to have? Because obviously this is one of the things in Los Angeles which I think people could point to and say, this has a real economic impact. Like, what is that weight like for you?
It makes me feel physically ill. Like, I feel terrible. Because we both know, we both worked in restaurants, like, we know how difficult it is. And 101 might seem like so many, but it's such a small number.
Finite.
When you're talking about all the different businesses in LA and the surrounding areas, so not good. It makes me feel awful.
I think that's helpful context because I think people just think of the names on the bylines as like emotionless people sometimes.
Yeah. My doctor knows that it's 101 time when I asked to re-up my subscription for Ambien because I'm not sleeping very well at night. So yeah, the wait it feels real.
Yeah. I think it's important to talk about because I think that context for the restaurants that maybe do fall off, like you don't take these decisions lightly. And
especially like we can obviously expense a certain amount of meals for work, but like I can't expense 3 or 4 meals at a restaurant for the 101. And we will do that where it's like if we feel like something is going to fall off, and I think I could say I think we each spent a lot of our own money and time going back to certain places before we took them off.
Wow.
To just feel better about that decision.
Yeah. It's a labor of love in that sense. Yeah. In terms of that influence we talk about, right, the economic impact, but just cultural impacts that 101 had. Like I was just sitting here while I was waiting for you guys, and right there on Chichen Itza, on that rotating screen that they have, they still have 101 from 2018. You know, like it carries weight here. Like, how much do you think the 101 shapes dining in LA versus reflects it?
I honestly don't know how to answer that question because I think I'm not thinking that grandly when I am in the thick of it. I'm really just trying to get it right by my own standards. You know what I mean? Again, like part of the fun of this list, right, is people hating on it, and I
love it.
Right, and I get it, and yet I would never make a list as a way to say, like, I'm not seeking hate clicks.
Yeah.
That's just not the type of person I am. They'll come organically, but
unfortunately.
Yeah, and that part of having this job is just kind of trying to grow that skin.
Yeah.
But I hope that I think what I hope, of course, more than anything, is that it's useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That people look at it top to bottom. Yes, the top can lean heavy on special occasion places because the people behind them invest so much to make an unforgettable experience, and yet at the bottom of the list, which you mentioned earlier, you feel like that you see much more turnover down there. Well, I feel like that's natural, right? Because sometimes this list too is about like what was cool this year, what showed up this year, what was accessible. I'm thinking of Tun Lama Jo, an Armenian restaurant that's cooking food that's much homier and much more specific than a lot of Armenian restaurants in this city with an enormous Armenian population. So I'm excited to include that. Will Tun Lama Jo make it next year when there's another influx of restaurants that are doing something similar? I can't tell you.
Yeah. Surprised not to see any Dubai chocolate shops on there if the trends are the case.
Are you?
That makes sense. Now, speaking of those kinds of things, like cuisines, like types, like trends, themes, was there anything that surprised you this year? And like, for example, are there categories that are maybe in transition in the city, like Italian food, for example?
Ooh, Italian.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts on Italian food in Los Angeles.
Share that.
Just because there's not a ton of regional Italian cooking, and I think that the Italian restaurants that we do have on there, minus a couple, like if you go to Funky, it's not just pasta.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's a specific pasta shape from a specific place. So you really do get a sense of place when you're talking about Italian food there. Whereas I feel like, but still this year with we keep seeing a lot of Italian openings, and it's more of like Italy as this monolith of red sauce.
Yeah, I mean, I guess again, I wish everyone success, and the Italian restaurants are havens of safe menus.
Yes.
Right? I wish, like, the whole Cal Ital thing, like the confluences in topography and between the Mediterranean and California are really copacetic. So
yeah.
I'm always just hoping for somebody to land here and be like, I am from this place in Italy and I am cooking what I grew up eating there. Like, it would be so exciting to have that food.
Like Daniele Uditi, but for his limited time supper club.
Yeah.
Lele dinner club, yes.
Yeah, to like make pasta fagioli Neapolitan style, the centerpiece of your restaurant is.
Yes.
It takes some guts.
Yes.
I agree. Like Sardinia, these places, right? There's so much crossover with.
Yeah, and it's so but it's so different from the food of Venice.
It wouldn't be even recognized as Italian, I think, if they did it here.
Yeah, or the food of Liguria. Yeah, like all these places have these very specific micro influences to them, and I just love to see more of that here. And in the meantime, there's cacio e pepe. Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
And foglie d'ulivo over at Antico. Yeah, you got a couple shouts on there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I feel like Antico is a great example of a restaurant that is not necessarily diving into what we're talking about with regional specificity, but Chad Colby cooks to his own inner compass around that country. I don't think he's Italian.
I don't
but
think so.
He's
Colby doesn't sound.
He's just always there.
Right, but he's always there. He's been studying it a long time.
Yeah.
He's worked with Nancy Silverton, who has made that her life's work. But Antico does what it does perfectly.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's where I had my birthday dinner this year.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great question. That's something I've always wanted to know that I didn't even know that I wanted to know is where does Bill have his birthday dinner? Now I know, so thank you.
It was like, I remember a birthday lunch from last year or the year before.
Which one?
Or no, that was dinner at Pizzeria Bianca.
Okay,
Yeah.
is Jen just
Pizzeria
finding out that
Bianca
she
was
wasn't invited to the birthday
No,
dinner?
no.
It was a smaller one this year.
Yeah, no.
Yes. Yeah, Tsubaki is one where I've had my birthday.
Yeah.
Previous years. I might shift to Camellia, which I feel like is another restaurant that has really kind of found itself.
Yeah, as reflected by its place on the list. Look, you guys have been so generous with your time. I have a few closing questions for you guys.
We'll be fast.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be. I don't have to be anywhere other than to pick up ingredients to make Italian sandwiches at home, but that is neither here nor there.
Nice.
Okay, what was the restaurant that you argued about the most? Not necessarily whether it belonged on the list or not, but maybe placement-wise.
I'm going to let you answer this.
Oh no, because I don't know off the top of my head.
Placement-wise?
Oh no, I don't want to say.
No.
You say.
No, I don't want to. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't.
Can we say without context?
You can say
Can we
without
just say-
context, yeah.
Somni.
Was that the one?
I don't know. What would you say? What's your answer?
I don't know. I feel like we were pretty aligned with where.
Were we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Were we not? Everything is my fault. Everything is my fault. I like how the memories shift in my brain to something more
Or
palatable
maybe
for this
I'm
conversation.
13 years older than you are, so.
I don't like this question, Lucas.
That's fine. I got an answer. Somni is my answer. We'll move to one that is a little bit, I think you'll like answering.
Okay.
What is one restaurant on the list you wish more readers would go to? The under the radar pick
there's
that
so
means
many.
a lot. But what's one that's just in this lightning round, an under the radar the pick that maybe means a lot to you?
I would say Sora Craft Kitchen in downtown. The chef there, OK Enoch, is making Turkish dishes like you've never seen before. They're part of his family's repertoire, and he makes them into restaurant dishes in ways that are really beautiful but still contain their essence.
Las Segovias. The Nicaraguan restaurant in Huntington Park is so excellent.
The tamales there are amazing.
So good. And every time I go, I'm like, there needs to be more people here. Like I'm usually like the only table in there, which I don't understand, because I was like, if you tried this food, you would want to go there like once a week.
Wow.
So that's one restaurant I hope more people discover and go to.
You got one more person going there after this conversation.
Good. I'm so excited. Yay. Okay.
What about one restaurant, that's maybe not on the list, maybe because it closed, that broke your heart this year?
Here's looking at you.
No question about it. Here's looking at you. I will miss that restaurant forever.
I know. Jen and I had a very meaningful, had a hard day together, and we ended up having martinis and burgers
and curly fries
at the bar, and I was just like, this place has my heart.
Yeah.
I love that you guys, I know how genuine that answer is because you just exclaimed it together. So.
Well, you have to think about it. Like, there's another restaurant that is not on it because they announced they were closing, but we love to Birdie G's.
Oh, I love
special.
Birdie G's.
I hate that Birdie G's is closing. But yeah.
R.I.P. Last question for you guys. What is, for each of you, restaurant number 102?
Do you think you have mine?
No, I don't. No, you tell me.
No, I don't know. I feel like there were so many that we like, that could have been 102. Oh, I know what it is.
What is it?
Dear John's.
Oh, good answer.
Dear John's.
Yeah. Sorry, Dear John's.
I know.
We love you. Go to
So
Dear
much.
John's.
Please go there.
Speaking of meat and martinis.
Yes.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
How about you, Bill?
Oh, do I have to give one now too?
Yeah, if Jen had to, then you have to as well.
It's Yes. YESS.
Yeah. Also love Yes.
We were really in love with Cafe 101 in back of the same building that houses
2001.
Yes. Wait, what did I say?
Cafe 2001. 101, because you 101 on the brain.
My God.
Yeah.
Cafe 2001,
Yes,
2001.
Yeah.
Very different years.
Yeah,
101 and
A little bit.
Different numbers. Yeah. The creative, cool, outside the box, but also affordable that we've been talking about definitely applies to Cafe 2001. Yes is such a funny, ever-changing restaurant, but there's a lot of talent there. So
Yeah. Great answers. Bill, Jen, it's been great answers across the board. So thank you very much for making the time for us.
Thank you.
And congratulations on another great 101 year.
Thanks, Luca.
Thank you so much.
Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, a man who, for our final podcast of the year, decided he was going to sound like he was in an underground cave. Saul, how do you explain not bringing your microphone with you to our listeners who hang on to our every word?
Yeah, shit, I forgot about that. I am on AirPod headsets today. I'm so sorry. I don't like lugging my mic on flights everywhere for you, but I should do it for the listeners. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to say, don't do anything for me, bro. Do it for the listeners.
I truly don't. I do not. But hopefully I'm coming through intelligibly enough for people to hear our certainly insightful and half-informed takes.
Well, a little bit more informed because this is actually part 2 for the first time. You're part 2 today, Saul, because in part 1 we aired our interview with Jen and Bill. But, I thought it would be important because the list is such that it inspires conversation by Angelinos, right? I thought it was kind of cool that we get to hear it directly from the critics themselves and then sort of like the everyman take. Saul, you're the everyman. How do you feel about that?
I feel okay about that. That's a standard I can meet. Everyman. Yeah.
Yeah. You are everyman.
I'm with that. It is, by the way, so cool that you got Bill and Jen. This is what I've been asking for year over year. Like we would come on these past years and just like do our best to analyze and share our reactions to the list. But I was like, you just got to hear from these guys. And I have not, unfortunately, heard that podcast yet. That's a frustrating bit because I would want to be informed for this conversation by that one. So give me some grace in that regard.
No, this is perfect actually, because like, as I said, the everyman does not know what's going on in Bill and Jen's heads necessarily, right?
I guess that's fair. But in this case, when we can get in their heads, I would take that information and use it to inform my reactions. Also,
way to tell me that you didn't actually listen to Bill Esparza's interview with Bill Addison this week.
No, no. So I started to. I'm busy. I have a job. So I started in the morning and then I had to stop. I got as far as them talking about Bill dropping anonymity. What did you think of that, by the way?
I mean, I kind of thought it was like about time, I kind of like see what he's saying. I got the sense from him that he didn't want to be a trend follower, right? That it was something that he's been thinking about. But ultimately, like, I do think like it's the wave of the future, bro. Like I did get a comment when I posted the post about him dropping his anonymity. Somebody said like, well, that's the death of the critic, like that's pretty much the only thing that makes a critic valuable is that the restaurant doesn't know who they are. But I think that Bill brought up a really good point that like many restaurants do know what he looks like because they can research his face online, and really the restaurants that are at a disadvantage are the restaurants that don't have the resources or the savvy to look him up. And oftentimes that's like immigrant restaurants or restaurants that don't have like a lot of resources or like, first time restaurateurs or mom and pops, right? So in a lot of ways, I think it's kind of like the most equitable thing you can do.
I think that's right. I mean, the point that the well-resourced restaurants already know who he is a really good one. His points around like how dynamics have just changed generally with social media, and as a critic, he feels like he's essentially left out of the conversation by virtue of not being able to do video and events in the same way. And you mentioned that on Bill Esparza's podcast as well. I do have to say though, this is now the standard. Right, basically. New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times.
Yeah.
Like Helen Rosner back in the day, I believe, was not anonymous as well, if I'm not mistaken, when she was at Eater. So
correct.
And now when she's at the New Yorker, is she New Yorker or is she New York Magazine?
She's the New Yorker.
Yeah. So it's now standard, and it creates an opportunity, bro. Someone can zag. Can you imagine the account, like the Instagram or blog, The Invisible Diner? Now a person who's completely unknown, right? Who can like create that mystique given that they're independent and unknown. I mean, Bill could do this himself, just make a burner and he could be out there saying what he wants. But think about that, dude. That's what I was picturing as I read his piece.
That's not a bad idea. Your content ideas are usually pretty shit, but that's a pretty good one. I'm going to give it to you.
I'm literally so much better at them than you. I'm so much better.
Yeah,
I am the ultimate content consumer.
Yeah, you are the content consumer. It's true. You are the lowest common denominator in that sense. Well, hey, I just want to give you a really quick recent eat before we dive into it. It's really just a shout out. I finally made it to a place called Tarzana Armenian Deli in, you guessed it, Tarzana. I'd meant to go here during my sandwich here, but I didn't go because technically they don't do sandwiches, they do wraps, and I was like, I gotta draw the line somewhere. Bro, this place is incredible. They're doing like these really good like lavash wraps with like Armenian meats or just like turkey, whatever tickles your fancy, but they're pairing it with like Californian ingredients like avocado. They make like nice aiolis. They like throw in cheese and stuff. I got the sujuk wrap. It was literally one of the best things I've had all year. So damn good. Tarzana Armenian Deli, you gotta go.
Very, very cool recommendation. I will put it on the list. This was not the place I wanted to hear from you about though. You know what I wanted to hear about?
What did you want to hear about?
I want to hear about Max and Helen's.
Oh,
but I actually don't because I haven't been yet. So I actually do not still want you to tell me. But put a pin in it. I will go. Fuck. When am I gonna go? I have like no time. I won't be going until I get back from Christmas break, I guess. But I will go soon. Hopefully the lines will be shorter by then. But even a colleague of mine in LA has been.
Yeah.
And she was telling me some stuff, and I had to tell her to
to pipe
save it. I don't want to know yet. I want to go in as blind as possible.
Will you tell the listeners what I was expecting going in?
Well, you were expecting. I mean, you were highly cynical. I thought you were like, this is gonna be like. You were just. I don't know. You had a bad attitude. Sometimes you have a bad attitude, bro. You just get a grumpy dude for fucking no reason. Like I get grumpy. I get grumpy for legitimate reasons. Like I'm always right.
AKA waking up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, that's a reason. I'm up at 6. We were out till fucking 3 a.m. drinking. I'm upset. I'm mad.
Yeah,
I'm mad that we are on this vacation up at 6 a.m. That's correct. You would just kind of randomly be like, oh, celebrity chef, oh, Phil Rosenthal, just blah blah blah, overpriced. I've been tracking, and I am more optimistic than you. And you'll have to tell me eventually what you thought.
Yeah. We'll save the Max and Helen's chat. But you're right. I went into it with low expectations and a little bit of a cynical eye. Why? Because I'm a man of the people. You know, I don't believe in these like Larchmont $27 patty melts. But I had it. Did it change my mind? Guess we'll have to find out. Have you eaten anything good?
Not really, because I was in Florida for the most of the last 2 weeks, and then now, I've just been
shots fired at every Applebee's everywhere.
We did go to this Mediterranean restaurant in Boca Raton that did the job, and also was one of the few times I've been like, I'm such a fucking snob now. I just like some of the stuff, the way it was presented, the way it was prepared. They were trying to make. I was like, this is like okay, and it was like a nice, expensive restaurant in Boca, and I was like, yeah, okay. It's like it's not doing it for me.
Are you trying to say I've ruined you?
You have ruined me in so many ways. I think I tell you that constantly, but this is one. Yeah,
that is. It's the marquee element of our friendship. Well, hey, let's get into it, Saul. As I said, we've already aired the interview with Bill and Jen, but this is really where we get psychotic with it, where we look at our spreadsheet, our fancy spreadsheet, which got even fancier this year because you decided to make one yourself. You've always criticized my spreadsheets in the past. How was your spreadsheet better than mine? Break it down for the listeners.
To be clear, we did not have a fancy spreadsheet in the past. We had like an elementary schooler's best attempt to try Excel for the first time. I'm looking at this like fucking nonsense mess that you send over to me. I made it better in innumerable ways. We now have a clear tab with raw data every year, restaurant and its ranking. I actually want to fill that out more and add cuisine and neighborhood to the raw data so we can map that as well. We have a pivot table that helps us easily sort across year over year each restaurant's ranking. That is also color graded, so you can see what, like if they were the 101 restaurant, it's very red. If they were number one, it's very green, and the gradient kind of shows us trends year over year that we can easily identify. And then I made a sort of ranking table as well, because the pivot table has some limits to its ability to filter and sort data. Plus, it doesn't include the years that there were no rankings. So I added those in to a third tab with every restaurant ranked or unranked to 2018, 2020, 21, and we can even cut it more ways in that table. So that's not even, by the way, this is like mild to intermediate Excel, which is what I've done here. We just gone from, I just couldn't stand it anymore, and I knew this conversation was coming. So we now
I'm a
have
creative.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a creative. I'm
what
not
is a
just
number?
like,
what is a number? What is a spreadsheet?
What even is a number? What is a spreadsheet? I'm not some like ivory tower, corporate, gimp like yourself. I'm a creative. Okay. But thank you for taking it upon yourself to improve our process. So let's start with, let's fuck the process for a moment and talk emotions. Okay. What emotions did the list elicit with you? Were you happy? Were you sad? Were you angry?
I was generally very happy with the list and thought that the number one choice was incredibly apt. And I thought, because it's all fucking made up, as we've discussed, like none of this is real. I think the point of the list more than anything is to just draw people's attention to places that are doing things interestingly and importantly, like important institutions, and to have Mercado La Paloma at number one.
Yeah.
As outlined in the video Robert Haleblian did with you, interviewing Gilberto Satina and the folks at Comal, talking about what the Mercado represents in terms of a place for restaurants to incubate and grow and have a safety net and like support chefs. I thought, and of course, it's also symbolism in terms of the immigration dynamics in LA over the past year, and all the things impacting the industry. Like, I thought that was a perfectly nailed choice, because I give a fuck what the number one restaurant food-wise is in LA. There's fucking 25 of them. It doesn't, like, there's no such thing as a second versus fourth best restaurant. It's all made up. So give the attention to folks doing very important things, I thought, as well as delicious food, of course. And I thought that was well done.
So you're telling me that Cato should not feel like a loser for slipping from 1 to 2?
Cato the only reason you should ever feel like a loser on the list really is 1, falling off of it, or arguably 2, falling precipitously. I do think there is probably a gradient benefit, right? Like there's probably a top 10, top 20, like the most competitive restaurants I think do want to be there for recognition. Otherwise, I think for the most part, it's a big win to be on it. It's a big loss to be off it. And if you're someone who dropped from like 15 to 60, then I think you'd be like miffed. Because it's also a little bit unfair. As I look at the list year over year, I only care about like drops or jumps of like 10 to 15 spots or more. Anything that's like, oh, you were 18 and now you're 13. That doesn't super matter to me.
Yeah.
But the big drops, sure.
It's like if you think about it in like the Bill Simmons pyramid of basketball, it's like there are tiers, right? It's like you can fall like from 10 to 16 or actually 10 is an interesting one because then you're in the top 10, but like let's say like 13 to 18 or something and you're still in the same band. But if you fall from like 13 to 46, then you may want to start questioning some things about what's happened to you over the last year. Now, before we get into the rest of the top 10, there was only one ascension from the 101 to the Hall of Fame, if we want to call it an ascension, and that was Bestia. Do you think that Bestia has earned a spot in the Hall of Fame, or interesting question, maybe it was going to fall precipitously, maybe even off the list, and Jen and Bill felt, we got to do something nice for it. Let's put them on the Hall of Fame.
So I was actually surprised they hadn't been on the Hall of Fame already. I think it's a great addition. I don't know the reasoning for why. Maybe it wouldn't have been on the list, but it does that to me isn't the decision, or shouldn't be the decision, as much as, hey, what's an institution that's defined the last decade or two of dining in LA? That should be, or more. That should be like the criteria for the Hall of Fame, and Bestia is certainly deserving, and a good addition.
Yeah. Yeah, I maybe it's just because we are old enough now to remember when it was hot and new on the scene. It feels like it shouldn't be a Hall of Fame restaurant to me. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, I know that it should, but it's kind of like the same thing with like Dwight Howard being talked about for like Hall of Fame, or like someone like that.
Dwight Howard is an obvious Hall of Famer. It's like he's an unquestionable first ballot Hall of Famer. You just don't know ball. I get he's annoying as hell, and he was bad for like a decade, right?
Yeah, it's not even that he's like not a Hall of Famer caliber player. It's just the fact that we are at a place where like his induction ceremony is around the corner. It makes me feel old and like it shouldn't be happening. Does that make sense?
It does. It sounds like a personal problem. Why are you putting down Ori? Ori's a Hall of Famer. You should be happy.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Congratulations to Bestia. Okay. Any surprises for you in the top 10? A reminder, here's what entered, okay? We have Antico, which went from number 12 to number 8. Restaurant Key, which debuted at number 9. And Anajac, which went up one spot from 11 to 10. What exited? Well, Republique dropped from number 4 to number 22, which seems significant. Barbacoa Ramirez went from 8 to 17. And Inaka went down from 9 to 11. Any surprises here?
I don't think so, except not in terms of inclusion. I'm pretty happy with all these. Top 10, no surprises, except for the exclusion of Somni, maybe? Like that would be one. And I don't know why that specifically comes to mind. It's down at 52. And there does seem to be like, and there does seem to be an active choice. You don't have your Vespertines and your Somnis. Yeah. Like Cato is here. Hayato,
yeah.
Hayato?
Yeah.
Hayato's there. And it seems like they made a very specific choice on who represents these finest of dining at the highest level for the LA Times 101, or like the ones they wanted to reward and they feel like speak to the city and its context this year.
Yeah.
But that was the one restaurant that I was like, oh, like scrolling down, like where's Somni at? But in terms of the actual inclusion and makeup of the top 10, I'm not mad.
I think it's interesting for a couple reasons. One, Somni's like clearly a very polarizing restaurant. Like there's actually a really well-known reporter who I recently heard call it vile. I'm not going to out them, but like,
Wow.
I mean, it's just extremely polarizing, right? In terms of like, it's a restaurant that elicits super strong reactions. Some people just see it as like absolutely genius, like, and this is the best restaurant in the entire known universe. And then others who are like, they're charging you $700 for smoke and mirrors, basically. Kind of like what the kind of reaction Vespertine used to elicit, right?
And maybe still does, to be fair, right? I don't know if it's more roundly. I mean,
although Vespertine
up to 33,
kind of a rising star. Yeah,
30s now. Yeah. I wouldn't say rising star. I think just Bill is Bill recognized it and appreciates it more. I think that's fair. And to be clear, we have not been to Somni yet. I just base that on like other major, particularly World's 50 Best-ish / Michelin recognition. I'm like, oh, that was the one I was looking for. We will be having Somni next year, and one of us will be paying. We will find out who.
I do think Bill and Jen do a really good job of not being influenced by shit like that, by Michelin and World's 50 Best. And if anything, I think it's led to what some might call the most casual top 10 we've ever had. Like, there's not a whole lot of white tablecloth dining at this. There are a couple.
Is Providence is here? Morihiro is here. Baru I wouldn't put there. Kato and
50%.
Like those are almost half of
I'd
it.
Say
Restaurant Key, like 50% is more representative of that. Now we did talk about how J Gold actually did weight pretty heavily towards fine dining. In his top 10s, and Bill has always been changing that. But I think it's fair, even as like these expensive white tableclothy spots are up there.
Yeah, if anything, I think sometimes being that expensive hurts you a little on the 101, because Bill talked about like Celine, for example, right? And this year he actually gave Celine a really high spot because he felt like they've hit their stride. But in the past, he didn't give them a high spot because he was kind of like, there's some weird stuff happening here, and I'm not 100% convinced that if you go and dine at Celine, you're going to like feel like you basically got your money's worth, right? Like you had a night out in which you got your money's worth. So sometimes having those high price tags, like it kind of sets the bar even higher in terms of what you have to reach for a list like this. Whereas, with a restaurant like, let's say Azizam, right? They're doing incredible things, but you can get out of there with like $40 a person, right? So that ultimately like lowers the bar a little bit.
Yeah, it's fair criteria.
All right, last year we did something which I really enjoyed, so I ran it back. Essentially, I grouped restaurants into categories. It's 4 categories. There are the rising stars, aka restaurants that made sort of like meteoric jumps up the table. There are wilting flowers, which are restaurants that conversely had big drop-offs for whatever reasons. There are the yo-yos, which for some reason from year to year just seem to go up and down in quite a volatile fashion. And then there are the well-oiled machines, the restaurants that year after year kind of stay within the same band of, 5 to 10 places, shall we say. Let's start a little bit with some of the rising stars this year. I think the biggest rising star is probably Antico. It climbed from, if we go back to 2022, it was a restaurant in the 40s. Last year, it was at number 12, and this year, it broke into the top 10. And I do think that breaking into the top 10 is a significant achievement, so I wanted to shout them out. One of the ones that I was most impressed by was Destroyer, which I don't think was even ranked in 2024, and this year like came back into it at 14. And it's not like a new restaurant. It's been around for like almost 10 years. Quarter Sheets, similarly to Antico, was at 44 in 2022. It's now at 15 in 2025. And I know you said this wasn't a huge jump, but to me it kind of is, considering that Vespertine once upon a time was at number 101. Last year it was at 50. This year it's at 33. I feel like it's entered a new band. Saul, are you shocked at at sort of the big jumps in Jordan Kahn's restaurant specifically?
That was a surprising one. It's the one that we haven't been to, but I've heard really good things. And I think it's intentional also, to your very point about expense and price, right? Yeah. Relative to what you're getting. I think that's what that one speaks to. I will say, I quibble with some of the framing of like a rising stars here. Antico has been top 15 for the last 3 years. It's more of a steady, it's up there, right? Same thing with Quarter Sheets, 13, 13, 15 over the last couple of years. When I see rising stars, I look at two homes.
Yeah.
The place I went to in Inglewood with my friend Sheru, which two years ago in 2023 was 89, last year 47. This year, 29.
That is good.
Right? To me, that's a 60 spot jump in 3 years. Like that's like to me, that's real rising star, like, hockey stick curve. Like you're really spiking up the list. So as I was looking through these, that was one that stood out. I thought it was really interesting also that Damian. That's more of a yo-yo possibly, but it went 35, 36 in 2022 and 2023 respectively, 65 in 2024, big drop, and then now back all the way up, its highest ranking ever at 21. And it would be interesting to talk to Bill and Jen, though you already done so, and I didn't have a chance to submit my questions about what goes into something like that. Is it true? And the reason why I wonder about it is when Damian goes from 30s to 60s to 20, right, in 3 years, is that them really feeling that there was something different about the restaurant? Yes. And that different about their execution? Or is it more contextual? Yeah. Right? Is it like, we have a grade book for Damian in 2024. We know exactly how we felt about them back then, and we know exactly what we feel like they did so much better this year that's deserving of a 40 spot jump? Or is it something more like in a year, well, in the broader context, right, of LA this year, they said Damian is actually a more important restaurant to recognize, even if the food may be relatively similar to its lower ranking?
I think it's a little bit of both. I did get the sense, speaking with them, that context of the scene around them, around the restaurants and around the scene, matters a little less than individual restaurants themselves. Like, they do go back to individual restaurants and sort of re-experience it with fresh eyes for like the first time. They try to, at least each year. Obviously, you go into it with the context you had from the years before, but they try to with as fresh eyes as possible, and they sort of give it another shot, and they're it's almost like graded against itself from year to year, not necessarily like against other things. So I think that a restaurant like Damian, they genuinely had like better experiences this year than they had before. Maybe they had noticed like that the chef was doing something different. And I do think Chuy Cervantes has really, come into his own as the chef of de cuisine there, in terms of like really like putting his own imprint on the restaurant, as opposed to just like carrying forward Enrique Olvera's agenda, right? So I do think that there's something to that. I sort of got the sense that like the way that Bill and Jen approach it, the sort of like context and where other restaurants fall around other restaurants, it just sort of happens. You know what I mean? Like they do try to like treat every restaurant individually. And that's why it's so painful too for them when a restaurant falls off the list, because they are genuinely trying to go there with like their best intentions of judging that restaurant year to year. So it sucks to see when a restaurant falls off in terms of like a year, right?
Yeah. I think a restaurant can fall off, and maybe it just like falls off the list. I think we saw that with maybe a couple this year, or are dropping. And usually I'm okay with that when it's or I'm most okay with it when it's like an institution, your Osteria Mozzas, which we think we'll talk about, and so on and so forth. But yeah, but it's really the most interesting ones are the yo-yos, the big yo-yos that go up and down. Could really quickly want to shout out a couple more rising stars. Oh yeah, Dulans has gone from 75 to 56 over the last couple of years. Major Domo has gone from 80 in 2022, is now up to 58 in 2025, slowly creeping up the list. And then Stir Crazy, our friends over there, 86 to 64 this year. 86 last year, 64 this year.
In the interview with Bill and Jen, I said something like, what do you think it is with all this like wine bar food? And they were both like, I don't think of Stir Crazy as wine bar food. And I was like, come on, guys, come on. Anyways, well, yeah, let's jump over to talk about sort of some of these quote unquote wilting flowers, the restaurants that experienced big drops. And you mentioned it, Osteria Mozza went down to number 71 this year. They were at number 30 in 2024. They were as high as 14 in 2022. Heritage Barbecue was at 61 this year, down from 48 last year, and 27 in 2023. Pajoli, not quite as steep a decline, but definitely a downward slope. It's at 34 this year, down from 18 last year and 12 in 2022. A big drop, well, not really a big drop, but a big drop from 2023 is Pine and Crane. They were at number 44 in 2023, and now they're at 76. Spacca also down 18 spots from 2023. Pizzeria Bianco down almost 40 spots from 2023, down in 68. And then another one, which I wasn't so surprised to see, was Found Oyster down at 78 from 57 in 2023. So it seems like a bad year to be a celebrity pizza chef between Bianco and Nancy Silverton. I do have a theory behind this, and it's something that I've heard said by other people, is that we are exiting the era of like celebrity chefs, where it's enough for like a chef to be sort of like the gravitational star of a restaurant that really anchors excellence. And it's now more about like the overall brand of a restaurant and concept of a restaurant, and just having a really strong team in place executing that at every level, from CDC to marketing to experiential. I mean, Cato is a great example of this, right? You have John Yao, you have Ryan Bailey, you have Austin on the beverage program. None of them are like household names, right? Outside of like super insular food circles, right? But together, Cato is now a huge name in terms of Los Angeles. So this is kind of what I saw happening here with some of these wilting flowers. Do you think there's something to that?
There could be. There could be, in the sense that I would imagine that in the age of the celebrity chef, which I think the 2000s and 2010s really, when 2000 started, 2010s really like exploded. It was true that you could put your name on a spot or be associated with a spot, and that spot, if you were a famous chef, kind of got a lot of maybe benefit of the doubt, or just a lot of like ongoing attention.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there could be a recognition that like, hey, as these chefs go and do other things, right, or are pursuing other projects, and really it's just their reputation carrying it forward, maybe they're like calling out the, hey, that doesn't mean the quality is still there. Now, we should say Major Domo, Dave Chang, celebrity chef, creeping up the ranks. Funky, Evan Funky, celebrity chef, top 20, I believe,
right.
Number 19.
But Felix and Mother Wolf both off.
Mother Wolf and Felix fell off. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, so I think there could be something there as well. So I don't know if it's so explicit.
Yeah.
But I think there's a little bit of a changing of the guard kind of thing happening. Not wholly, but there are 31 new names this year. I think that's about in line with the average flip. Is it a little bit higher?
Is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like at your top having, I don't know, Antico's new, Restaurant Key is a new voice. Dunsmore has obviously been on the list before, but is new to it was top 10 last year, but like now top 5. I think like more and more of these restaurants that more represent a chef with a unique vision, clarity, and a good team, right? That is doing something, that is using their voice to do something that adds something strong and unique to Los Angeles. That's what's being elevated by Bill and Jenn, which I think is really admirable, because it's not that wasn't being recognized when J. Cole was doing the list. It's just that I think he more straightforwardly went for, like we said, like your Providence number 1 over and over again, highly deserving, I'm sure, but like the white tablecloths, most expensive, Spagos, and so on.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas I think Bill and Jenn are like, hey, what does this year of eating mean to the city, and who do we want to draw attention to?
Yeah.
In that context.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And also, you mentioned Dunsmore. We haven't had a chance to talk about our meal at Dunsmore, but I feel like you were not surprised to see it at number 4.
Not at all. Very happy to. Holy shit. One of my favorite meals of the year. I could barely walk afterwards, but god damn, that was so good. Everything from the fucking mashed potatoes to the famous cornbread, the fish. I don't even see the fish photographed as much. That fish was delicious.
Well, because it's kind of an ugly dish.
Yeah, it's not very Instagrammable, I guess.
Yeah,
but it's fucking delicious. And the oh my god, that chili verde, pork chili verde.
It's, again, one of the uglier dishes in the city.
Yeah, when you see pictures of it, I'm like, okay, all right, we'll see. Holy fuck, man, that was crazy.
It's almost like there is a correlation at that restaurant with the uglier the dish, the better it's gonna taste. And it's like think about it. Like, actually, I mean, the crudo was incredible and it was a beautiful crudo. So hard to make that argument to its fullest. But yeah, just honestly, that was my favorite meal I've had there. you were a big part of it because your enjoyment brought me a ton of joy, but also you forced me to order more than I've ever ordered before because I was
you were paying also. Yeah. I was punishing you. So I ordered us a bottle of red wine just for the fun. But did we finish that? Maybe we did. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure we did. Pretty sure we did. All right. Moving on to the yo-yos. Okay. These are the ones that have had big swings from year to year, not a straight decline, just kind of unpredictable movement for whatever reason. Yang's Kitchen comes to mind. It was up massively, 92 to 39, and then this year it's back down to 47. Bavel, it was at number 10 in 2023, down to 39 in 2024, and back up to 16 this year. And then you mentioned Damian, which started at 36, down to 65, up to 21. This is the most confusing category to me because it is just like what is happening at these restaurants? Do you think that they just like stop caring for a year and start caring the next?
No. I highly doubt that. Also, I would not put Yang's Kitchen in the category because 92 to 39 is a jump. 39 to 47 to me is next.
Same band.
That's
yeah, it's a similar band. Similar band.
Less than 10 spots change. I don't care. The Bavel 10 to 39 to 16 and the Damian 36 to 65 to 21 year over year. Oh, those are like the ones where I think are interesting. And it's
Bavel.
Yeah, and I definitely do not think it's they didn't care for a year. I think there was something about that year of eating that Bill and Jen felt that for whatever reasons those restaurants, which I think are kind of like they're not sister restaurants in any way, but like they're a similar thing. They're your arts district, kind of higher level. Like they're in a similar category of eating, you might say.
Yeah.
And there must have been something about that year where Bill and Jen were like, this is just maybe speaks less to what was important this year or notable of this year. Now, this is crazy too, because like you cannot separate the fact that a drop from 39 to 65 or whatever had to have had some impact economically on the restaurant, right? Like
for sure. I'm sure it sucks for the team too, like morale wise.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so it's the list is the list, and I think the list is a useful document from the perspective of it telling a story about dining in LA. It's an incomplete list. It's a largely made up in terms of what actual rankings are, and you can't separate it from the fact that like there's a little bit of a grossness here, as valuable as this is, and as much as I myself reference the list all the time, right, to decide where to eat.
Yeah,
and so that those yo-yos matter, and it would be cool to know a bit more about what's up with it.
Well, the good thing, like I don't know if it's like comforting to the restaurants, but it's certainly comforting to people who just think of like critics as like sociopaths. It's clear that like Bill and Jen really feel the weight of this. You know what I mean? Like they know like this sucks for a lot of restaurants and it's a hard time, as beautiful of a time it is for other restaurants who experience success during this time. Like to me, that was a little comforting because I was like, they take this really seriously. And I think that, you know, what's interesting to me is Bill kept saying he just wants this to be useful for people. And like, ultimately, it's a super useful guide to like, you know, you've even suggested that I should eat the 101 as like one of my yearly challenges, right?
You should honestly do that every year if you want to consider yourself an influencer with real bona fides.
I don't.
You should eat the 101. You should. You should eat the 101 every year.
I have no desire to have any sort of bona fides.
There's a female influencer, a woman influencer in New York who eats the 100 New York Times 100 every year. She fucking baller. So good at what I'm like, this is it's an amazing picture of the city.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Yeah. It's just, I don't like to be a follower, okay? I like to be a leader, which is why I eat the one.
You would be the first person doing this in LA as far as I'm aware.
That's why I was making a joke. That's why I decided to go with burgers, a truly unexplored category.
Yeah. Pizza and burgers.
You know what I think with the yo-yos?
No man's gone before.
Yeah, exactly. The burgers. Jesus, fuck my life. You know what I think with the yo-yos is interesting, especially when we're talking about like Bavel and Damian, right? Like we go to Bavel, like once every 3 years or something like that. Like not often, maybe once a year.
I went last year.
Okay, yeah, sure. Damian once every couple years, like not every year. But Bill and Jen are going like 4 times a year, 5 times a year, right?
Right.
And I wonder if when you do that, you kind of get a sense for who's in the restaurant. Like you get a sense for like the team. and maybe they can sense, like, kind of like when we're watching the NBA, right? And we're like, wow, Indiana was like really strong last year, but this year they got a couple injuries and like they're rocking with like not as strong a core, right? They lost some important pieces. I wonder if like people like who dine in a restaurant that often can make those kind of assessments of like who's in the kitchen year to year, like from a staff level, and they sense that via the service, via the food, via the experience. So to me, like, that could be a possible explanation for the yo-yos.
That's kind of interesting. It'd be great if we could go back in time and ask Bill and Jenn when you had them on the podcast.
No, the beauty of this is there's still some mystery, okay? We got some answers. We still got some mystery.
Yeah.
We give the listeners everything, okay? All right, last category. It's the well-oiled machines, okay? Restaurants that are stable within 5 to 10 spots year over year. There's some obvious ones at the top, like Cato, Hayato, Providence, Morihiro. Interesting ones for me are Safi's, which went from 22 to 28 and has been in the 20s for some time. Ursa and Winston, which I always forget about, and it's from 17 to 25, and it's constantly been at like the upper echelons of the list from what I can recall. You can maybe correct me. And then Mini Kebab, which is one of like a perennial player in the 40s. So is this one of the hardest categories to be in? Just like maintaining like same standards year over year is like, to me, is this is the most impressive one.
Yeah, it is. And I would add Melissa to the list, by the way, which has been between 20 and 24 for four years in a row.
That's a good one.
These, to me, are the future Hall of Famers, potentially.
That's a great take.
Yeah, these are the ones who I think, 10 years, whatever down the line, these like defined, now going on in some cases like a half decade of dining, if not more, right?
Yeah.
And because usually they're the ones that are about in the top 10, top 20 range and doing excellence year over year in the city and becoming those institutions. So yeah, that'd be my take on that.
Yeah, that's good. I really want to shout out Ursa and Winston. I've never been to Ursa and Winston. I think it's one of my greatest failings as a person who loves Los Angeles food. But like Joseph Centeno, I think is quietly one of the most impressive restaurateurs of like the last 20 years in Los Angeles. I mean, Baco Mercat was like a huge splash when it opened and it did great. Bar Ma has been on this list year after year, and like nobody really talks about it other than when the list drops. Same with Ursa and Winston. And like Ursa and Winston, for it to always be in like the top 25, that means it's doing something special. I feel like we should bet on an Ursa and Winston dinner in the near future.
And it's right downtown. We can just go during a weeknight. Absolutely, I'll bet you on it. Yeah. We can come up with something. Maybe that's the dinner bet ahead of the Somni Champions League winner bet. You know what I'm saying? The semifinal.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that, the semifinal bet. Great. So congrats to all the future Hall of Famers, to use Saul's words. Obviously there's, as you mentioned, 30 new restaurants. I personally was really stoked to see Budinoki on there for the first time. Obviously they didn't make it last year. This year they crept into the 70s. Was super stoked for them. Any first timers you were happy to see?
Budinoki would be a name. I can see the name of one restaurant that I think you're pretty sad is on the list this year, which I will not name in the moment. No, I don't know. I don't think I have, like, I'm trying to go through in real time.
Wait, which restaurant am I sad is on the list?
I'm not going to say it because you didn't say it. You haven't said it before.
Wait.
You haven't said how you feel about it. You have, but you haven't named it.
It's a restaurant.
You haven't named it.
It's a restaurant I don't like?
Yeah.
Now I have to know. I like all the restaurants.
I'll name a couple notable.
Addison's not on the list.
No, it is not, but it wouldn't be. I'll name Biryani Kebab House is interesting. That's like not one I'm like. I will say the one thing I want to look for and explore maybe next year is the restaurant that I think should be the Indian/Pakistani restaurant that I think should be on the 101 represented. Yeah. I'm not like I've said. Shout out Biryani Kebab House doing their thing, but I'm not sure if it's the one for me. And then Bridgetown Roti has it been on?
Oh yeah.
No, sorry, that has been on before. Alto has not been. Evil Cooks is
Alto's new, and we should go.
Yeah. Evil Cooks is on. Baby Bistro
for the first time.
Yeah.
Baby Bistro makes sense, and I think like 50s makes sense. Like I could see it rising over the years. Although I did see something concerning. For the first time ever, I saw them post, "Hey, we have open tables tonight," which I've not seen them post before. So, yeah. Hopefully, that's not a sign of bad things to come.
That means it's time to go back. And then, obviously, River's new Sora Craft Kitchen is an interesting one, which I would also select to go to.
Yes,
a lot of good. And so it's interesting to see the newcomers that jump up really high. Destroyer, we've already talked about. I've been like circling Destroyer for a minute every time in Culver City.
All right, now let's talk about notable exclusions. Evan Funky took some L's. Felix and Motherwolf fell off, although Funky is in a really high position. Via's Tacos fell off. It was in the 50s, I want to say, last year, if I'm not mistaken. And it's completely fallen off. Don B in K-Town, which was one of my favorite restaurants that I ate at in terms of like noodle game last year, fell off. Lady Hawk, Charbel Hayek's Lady Hawk fell off, as did Camphor, the one Michelin star restaurant in the Arts District, which I went to recently and was pretty impressed by. And then La Cita as well fell off, the Filipino restaurant in Chinatown, which I absolutely adore. You know, knowing that Evan Funky took some L's, Via's Tacos took some L's, who's the most powerful man in food, Bill Esparza or me?
Why would you? You're a Via's stan, dude.
No.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
you are.
No, I know, but Evan Funky took some L's too.
Yeah, but he's still. I mean, I think that's more. I don't even consider that L's. I think it's a good thing to have. Generally, a good thing, with few exceptions, to have like it's like to have the diversity of like one like your head chef has one big name restaurant on. I know that's not true throughout, but like. I'm not mad at that. And Funky seems to be where he might be spending the most time of his right now. He also opened that new like wine, what was it, like Italian
bar Voya
situation. Yeah. You still owe me Felix.
I do.
Sorry, Funky,
yeah.
not Felix.
Okay, look, I just got you Dunsmore. We'll get there. Don't worry.
I thought the Via's drop off was one, belated, and two, I thought that was.
Do you see Esparza's fingerprints?
I don't know, because they put it on after the battle, right? It was on after that went down. But I think, I don't know. I think Bill Addison might have got swept up in the sauce.
I thought it was interesting that they included Tacos Los Cholos. I think it's like at number 75.
Yeah.
That's The Infatuation favorite that I'm pretty sure Bill Esparza is not a fan of, and I'm basing this off his public Instagram stories, not anything he's told me. So I thought it was interesting that even though they took off Via's Tacos, they included another, slightly controversial taco spot. And Tacos Los Cholos is also controversial because, to the allegations of Victor astroturfing the LA Taco Madness or whatever, Tacos Los Cholos did it just as hard. So it's an interesting choice. Also, Asadero Chicali fell off.
I did see that. Yeah.
All right, Saul. I think we've done enough for the 101. All in all, what's the number one restaurant on this list that you want to visit?
Ooh, good question. I mean, Restaurant Key. We've talked about it before. I think that'd be number one.
Yeah. Hey, so I think they finally convinced me that this year we're going to be doing the LA Food Pod Awards.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, you're telling me this, December?
I'm telling you this today.
Okay.
And I'm telling you now that we're doing this next week.
No.
Yes.
No, dude. Okay. Send me the fucking, like, what are the categories? What are we doing?
We're going to work it out. Don't worry. We have an entire 10 days to figure this out, dude.
Christ.
We've done way more with way less.
Next week. Wait, no. We have 6 days. No, 7 days. 7 days.
We got 7 days to figure this out. That's like.
I want to put real thought into this. We need a criteria. We need reasonings. Think of all this shit that we like. I mean, look, I know ours is going to be like more like for fun, best night out, right? Whatever, drunkest we got, shit like that. But I still want to put thought into it.
We're piloting it this year. I just think like we need some way to like memorialize 2025. And this is a great way to do it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad we're doing it. It's a cool thing to do. Did Addison say anything about the restaurant of the year?
No, he did not. I mean, I didn't ask. I didn't ask.
Unbelievable. You have to run your questions by me next time.
Why don't you just join me next time and we can just condense both interviews?
I'd also happily do that. But that's
We'll do that.
That's malpractice, dude. What happened? What happened here? Is it just Mercado La Paloma? Is that just like it?
It must be, right? Mercado La Paloma, and then Doolin's won the Gold Award. Bestia got named to Hall of Fame restaurants. Like, how many fucking awards do you need to give?
I liked it when he would pull out, because normally the restaurant of the year is not the number one.
Yeah.
Although maybe they changed it and they're like, it just is the number one restaurant. But like, I liked it because it was like, this is the restaurant that like, no matter where it is on the 101, also says something about the city. Now, to be fair, I think Mercado La Paloma as number one on the 101 does that. And so if the reasoning is it is just the restaurant of the year, that's fine with me. But I would have wanted to. explanation. He should have said that in the intro. I don't think he did.
Nope, I don't think he did either, and he certainly didn't say it in my interview because I did not ask him that, but that is why I don't call myself a journalist. So we're going to skip Chef's Kiss Big Miss today, but I am going to give you a shitty Yelp review, and that's for faking illness to avoid our white elephant party.
I didn't fake an illness. What are you talking? You know, on Saturday, dude, I was like, so I had like this itchy throat, cough, and a slight headache, and I was like, and I was traveling the next day, and I was like, look, I can go cough all over Luca's friends and make them sick, or I can like try not to be sick tomorrow. I definitely also was shooting the next day, so. I reject that.
Okay.
Not thinking. I mean, you fucking bailed on me for dinner on Thursday.
We did.
Holy basil, by the way, I think fell off the list.
Holy basil did fall off the list, actually. Remember last year my theory about expansion?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was it not expanded before that?
They expanded more this year. I mean, there's Yin Yang, and then they just expanded to Santa Monica. Right. Although I think like this may be a case of they didn't get there enough, because I feel like we didn't get there because of me. I canceled last week, but I hear in Atwater Village they're constantly trying new things, and Deo was telling me he just thinks people aren't aware of that, and that could be a problem. That could be
we are gonna go and make people more aware of it. I'm very excited for that. I have a better shitty Yelp review for myself.
Oh shit!
Which is that I wish your wife happy birthday today, and it's not today.
It's not, but it's close. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, on my fucking Microsoft Outlook, I have like all the birthdays on Microsoft Outlook. Yeah. But when I change time zones, it fucks up the days. Yeah. Even though it's an all-day event, it just like fucks it up and changes. So now I have to. Yeah.
So are you on the record saying Microsoft products are dog shit?
No.
Just kidding. All right, buddy. Hey, we're going to talk awards, but the award for best co-host goes to you today, okay?
Thanks. I appreciate all my fellow nominees. I guess Karen, I was saying that ironically.
No, she wasn't on the pod today, so you were a nominee of one. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Enjoy whatever city you're in right now. Try not to eat too much disgusting food in Boca Raton, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, bro.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to Bill Addison, Jen Harris, Father Saul, the Los Angeles Times, and honestly, the universe for making this very special episode happen. Thank you to you, dear listener. I hope you enjoyed what you heard here today. If you did, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, review, subscribe. Seriously, that's the greatest gift you can get us for the holidays. We'll be back next week with another epic episode, but if you're looking for me in the meantime, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, even our website at the LA Countdown. You can also find us on Instagram at It's Acquired Taste or at acquiredtastemedia.com.